Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Got another interesting early tractor here that ties in with initial era crawler development. Now this is a Fordson made by Ford Motor Company, and I don't see a model year listed anywhere on here, but we look at the serial number that's right here. It looks like it's a 731506. So a 731 starting would be 26 or 27 model year. It's got the later style manifold on it, and the earlier ones up through 23, 24 had a gasoline auxiliary starting tank right here. There were a couple of ears on the water tank for the water bath air cleaner, and their cast iron gasoline only tank would mount right here. This has the dual bung tank where you can see the rear filler is gasoline starting only. Has the Ford logo in that cap yet too. So it's definitely a later model Fordson. Now it's on tracks. Now these tracks were not made by Ford Motor Company. They were made by the Trackson company. And just for reference, this is what a standard Fordson would look like as configured from the factory. So it's not even like a half track kit, it's a full track conversion. This is the smaller of the track conversion models because they also offered a larger track conversion that had a front idler that was just as big as the rear drive sprocket. So that would have been like the full heavy track conversion. This is the standard track conversion, and it is bare bones simple. You can see we have dead links. All right, so the track pad is integrally cast with the links itself. Dead pins in there. They're held in by these little rivets, so they wore quite a bit. This is the later style Trackson conversion kit though, because you can see the lugs are separate from the rim and the spoke portion of the rear sprocket. So you could replace the lugs on these. I've got an earlier Trackson kit at home where the lugs and the sprocket are all cast as one. So they did have a little bit more for serviceability in mind with these. 3 rollers down on the bottom, and these covers here would hinge up, and these are the oiling cups that would direct oil to the bearings in all 3 of those rollers. Both sides are the same. Front idler was designed much like the rear sprocket with these heavy lugs, and here's the solid cast like I was talking about. Of course, the front idler did not have to cope with as much wear as the back, and then they drove on these teeth that again are integrally cast into each link. So once you wore these track links out, you were worn out. There was no starting over again. But it's an interesting kit in the way that it utilized the same front axle crossbeam. They just took the spindles and the wheels off, tied them into the track frames out here. This is a bolt-on rubber bumper stop piece that added a bump stop on each side for that front axle oscillation. We had 2 of these stiffener bars that would run arched down underneath the chassis of the tractor to help tie the track frames together. Here's your tensioner right here, and it's just a very basic slot with the bearing block in it, and we've got this square-headed screw with a jam nut on each side of the bracket. They did that for both sides, and that just moved the front idler out to maintain track tension. The rear sprockets used the same tapered wheel clamp that the steel wheels did, and we've got these very large brake bands that go around an integrally cast hub inside of that sprocket, and this also was a bolt-on mechanism. So we've got the linkage here, there's a pivot bar goes in front of the dash and then over to here as well, and it's tied into the steering arm, so it clamps to the pitman arm down here, and when you would turn the steering wheel, you can see that mechanism rocks back and forth, and what that does, it just locks the band on one side or the other, stops that track, and then it steers through the differential of the tractor. So minimal upgrades were required. Yeah, here's your clamps right here. It just clamped onto all the existing stuff, and boom, you were set to go with the crawler. This is an auxiliary parking brake handle right here. So if you want to park it on slope, it's got ratchet teeth in there, you can at least engage that. Otherwise, it was your standard Fordson tractor. You can see remnants of some lugs that I think have worn completely off now, but yeah, they advertise this as actually increasing the traction and pulling capacity of a standard Fordson tractor, plus it added more weight to the chassis overall, because these tractors had a nasty habit of rearing up backwards and flipping over, because the drawbar was right here and it pulled solely off the back of the chassis. So interesting, very interesting track conversion on this. Thought y'all would like to see it, so thank you for watching.